All right, good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock on July 23rd, 2026, and welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is Linus Kafka, and I'm a zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. We have one case on the agenda for the hearing tonight, and that is case number TP-MOD-0426-000023, the St. Joseph's Pad major change. To avoid any unnecessary noise and interruptions, please make sure that your microphone in the Teams uh, portal is muted, except when you're speaking, of course. As zoning examiner, I conduct rezoning hearings and special exception hearings on behalf of the mayor and council. I make findings of fact, which I put into written report along with my recommendation, which I send to the mayor and council for their consideration and their final decision. My reports will be based on the information submitted to me, which include the rezoning application or the modification in this case, the staff report, the written approvals and protests, and I've received two protests in this case, one from Joseph and Sharon Marchetti, and one from the Broom Family Trust, as well as any other correspondence and testimony given at the hearing. I'll also include in the record any documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. As I mentioned, tonight's proceedings are being recorded. If you plan on speaking tonight, I'm going to ask you to be sworn in a moment. But when I do call on you to testify, please tell me your name. Start your testimony by telling me your name and your address, and then provide whatever testimony you are planning on providing. So for this case, I'm going to complete a preliminary report within 5 working days after I close the public hearing. I'll then prepare a final report, which will be issued 2 weeks after the close of the public hearing. If you want to receive a copy of my report and you're not listed as a party on one of the cases, you can send an email to tucsonaz.gov, the Planning and Development Service Department will provide you a copy of my report. They'll also be available online. All of the reports will be sent to the mayor and council, as I said, and they will schedule a public hearing on that. They'll vote based on my recommendation as well as other factors that they take into consideration. So here's how the proceedings this evening are scheduled. First, I'm going to swear folks in. Then I'm going to ask Mr. Slater to present the staff report. Then I'm going to ask the applicant or the applicant's consultant to give a presentation. After the applicant presentation, I'm going to call on anyone who wishes to speak. So anybody who wishes to be heard on the matter can be heard, but I would ask that we keep comments concise. Then after the public testimony, I'll offer the applicant the opportunity to come back and address any points and to address any questions that I may have. If you are a member of the public wishing to ask a question of the applicant, please direct it to me. Ask me to ask that question, or ask me if that's a question I would like to make. I just want to hear your testimony. It's not a conversation. Then after that, I will, if it's appropriate, I will close the public hearing. If it's not appropriate, I will continue for more information to a later date. So at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing in the only agended case that I announced at the beginning, and ask Mr. Slater to present the staff report.
Sure, thank you. So this is an application by Lazarus and Sylvan on behalf of KB Homes to modify the St. Joseph's pad. There's a large area on the east side of the pad that was originally envisioned for either office or residential uses. This is a major modification request because the criteria for a major modification, the major modification criteria are met if the proposed residential density increases by more than 10%. I believe the pad originally allowed something between 90 and 98 units, and this is going to go up to 133 units, which would cross over that threshold. The request also changes the language throughout the pad to reference the Unified Development Code rather than the Land Use Code. And it makes some changes to development standards in and around the area that's proposed for residential use to accommodate the kind of lot development style that they're proposing. The proposal is conformant with both Plan Tucson and the Sewell-Hudlow Neighborhood Plan. It's a moderate increase in density in an area that's kind of a pretty large scale activity and employment center. That intersection at Wilmot and Broadway, the area around it's got the mall, it's got some retail across Broadway. There's automotive dealerships, some other large retailers. And so adding housing density in this area is appropriate to like the surrounding context. And it's also aligned with the city of Tucson's housing affordability strategies. As you mentioned, we did receive 2 protests for this case. I won't get into too many of the specifics because I know the applicant probably has a presentation, but the applicant's request conforms to general and area plan policy, and staff recommends approval of the request of the major change, finds it appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. Mr. Juneman?
Thank you, Dr. Kofke. Did you want to swear us in?
Yes, I did. Thank you. So everybody,
I want you to keep me on. I want you to keep me honest. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. So anybody who plans to testify or speak, even if you don't plan on it, you might be inspired to do that. So if you would raise your right hand or virtual right hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kofke, Mr. Slater, Mr. Beal. I'm Rory Juneman with Lazarus and Sylvan, 5983 East Grant Road in the city of Tucson. We represent KB Home. With me in our office are Adam Call and Helica Robles from KB, and Robin Large is our senior land use planner at Lazarus and Sylvan. And also Kevin Latendra is our civil engineer from Selmas. He's online as well and available for questions.
Kelly joined us.
Oh, Kelly Lee just joined us. She's on her way down to Nogales for her son's baseball game. So she's joining us remotely. She may already be there.
And she's with KB Home as well.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share some slides if that's okay, unless you have any questions before I start.
No, let's get into it.
Okay. Oops. All right. So just want to start off by orienting you to the site. This is a piece of property that is part of the St. Joseph's Planned Area Development. That PAD is about 54 acres. Our property is on the far east corner. It's 18 acres, and it's really the only piece of the St. Joe's area that is still vacant and hasn't been developed. It is, I think Mr. Slater alluded to this, it is an excellent infill site because it's large and it is close to all sorts of existing infrastructure for major roads. Wilmot and Broadway are not far. Utilities and lots of different kind of employment and activity center shopping. So it really is a pretty unique and good infill site. The uses around us to the north and to the east are single family residential. To the south, the immediate south is some office and multifamily, and then a little bit beyond that is some single family residential. And then to our west is really medical hospital uses. Directly to our west is an assisted living, and then right next to that is medical rehab, and then the hospital itself. As Mr. Slater mentioned, we're in the Sewell-Hudlow Neighborhood Plan. That plan for our site either encourages low-rise office or medium density residential. Medium density residential is 7 to 14 residents per acre. As you'll see, our plan is just a little bit over 7 residents per acre. We're also in the neighborhood building blocks of Plan Tucson, and as indicated in the staff report, we conform with both of those plans. Again, we're in we're part of the St. Joseph's PAD. We're asking for an amendment to that. Just for note, the hospital was built and opened in 1961. In 2006, the hospital went through, started some major renovations. They used this PAD to sort of serve as the template for those renovations. Part of that PAD included phasing. So really most of the hospital, or really all of the hospital renovations have been done. What the PAD did with our property or the subject property is sort of leave it as a placeholder for potentially new medical offices or administrative offices. I think at the time they weren't sure if they would need those medical offices. So PAD actually says this could be medical offices. If not, then it's appropriate for medium density residential. So it turns out the hospital didn't need this additional land. And so they are selling this property, and KB Home has it under contract for exactly what the PAD contemplated, which is that medium density residential. The reason, as Mr. Slater mentioned, that we're really here is that in 2006, the PAD put in that the minimum lot sizes should be 8,500 square feet per lot. 20 years later, that really isn't something that any major home builder is going to do. The realities, the housing shortages, costs, really smaller lots are what is feasible, and that's really why we're here. We have some other changes to the PAD, but the main reason we're here is to sort of right size and get approved, hopefully, lot sizes that really are typical for 2026. This is a preliminary development plan for the property. We're really not changing it. This general overview of a PDP. But what we've included with our application is a kind of an example, a concept of what KB might build. This is, KB has different products. So they've got other products that may have a little bit larger houses, may have a little bit less density. But what we wanted to include was kind of the highest possible density project that KB could build. And that's what this is. This is it's a unique product where they call it a rear load or rear entry, where the garages face the roads and the front doors face the interior common areas. And so homes are a little bit smaller, a little bit more density on this plan. The target market for KB is really first-time homeowners and retirees. They anticipate their homes to range from a little over 1,000 square feet to a little under 2,500 square feet, both 1- and 2-story homes. The PAD allows a height of 25 feet. We're not changing that, so we're maintaining that maximum height. But they will, offer both 1- and 2-story homes to their customers. KB does it a little bit kind of unique to some other home buyers where
right down on
they get some feedback from somebody, where they allow the home buyer to sort of choose the lot and the type of home they want, so 1- and 2-story. So there's not kind of a prescribed area that has 1s and 2 stories. They sort of let the home buyers choose that, and it evolves. But in a lot of cases, there's the 1 stories are preferred, or at least there's a significant amount of people who like those 1-story products. So, but both will be available through this process. The vehicle access to the project will all be from the south. I want to make clear There will be no access to the north or to the east existing residential areas. All access is going to originate from Carondelet Drive, or I come from Carondelet Drive. I guess it'll originate from Broadway and Jessica to the kind of southeast, and then to the west, Wilmont and Carondelet intersections are where the traffic will originate from the major streets. But into the project, we'll have one main entrance onto Carondelet, kind of towards the southeast edge, and then currently, right now, there's an access easement that provides access to the senior living and to the rehabilitation center. We'll have one access point off of that easement route, so for a total of 2 access points. There'll be ample visitor parking within, especially with this product. There's not really driveways for parking, so you need a little extra parking. So there'll be plenty of visitor parking within the project. We've asked for the ability to do private streets. If we do move ahead with private streets, then those will be maintained by the HOA. Obviously, won't be maintained by the city. And then I wanted to point you to the northeast corner of our project. All of this area that hopefully you can see my cursor that I'm pointing to is currently it's FEMA floodplain. So that is going to remain. KB is not requesting to do any kind of change to the floodplain. And we've got some, well, I'll talk about a little bit, some really, I think, are really cool ideas in this area. But I just wanted to make sure to explain that this area will be preserved as either functional or natural open space. And then I'll expand on this area in a few minutes. So I want to go through a few of the specific changes that we've asked for compared to the current pad with this new pad. First are setbacks. The pad has setbacks established as perimeter setbacks, so there's no internal setbacks to the homes, but there are building setbacks around the edge. The original pad, or I guess the current pad, set those based on the land use code. We're not changing the perimeter setbacks on the east, west, or north. Those are going to remain 25 feet, 10 feet. But on the south along Carondelet, we've simply adopted what the new UDC has adopted for street frontage setbacks, which is 10 feet. It used to be, I think, twice the height. Now we're just using what the current code uses as a 10-foot setback, which I think is appropriate for this area, especially along Carondelet. Regarding the landscape buffers, the original pad again deferred to the land use code. We've kept most of those buffers, but I think tailored them to the adjacent uses, which makes a little bit more sense. On the north, the east, and the south, we've included a 10-foot landscape buffer. But next to the existing assisted living, which is really functions more like a non-residential kind of a commercial use, we've swapped out landscape buffers for a 5-foot screen wall. We think that will make more sense both for the assisted living and for our residents in that area, and give a little bit more space for both. For the pedestrian circulation, not really changing what's in the pad much, but what the pad did require was what it calls a Rose Hill Wash trail. This is the Rose Hill Wash on the eastern side. And what the pad just said is you've got to put in some sort of a walking multi-use path in that area, but it left it vague. What we've done is to refine that a little bit, and there's a sewer line that runs through here and a corresponding sewer easement. What we've decided is it makes sense to overlap that trail with that sewer easement and that sewer line to co-locate them. one that limits disturbance. We don't have a sewer easement and then another trail in another location. So I think it makes more sense from preserving more of the natural area in there. And then it helps with access for wastewater to the sewer line. There's I think some good logical reasons to do that, and it really will work well with our site layout. And again, I'll show a little bit more of that in a minute. There's a few other modifications to the pad related to our density. We are, as I mentioned, 8,500 square feet was the minimum lot size. With this 133 unit plan, we're requesting for a minimum lot size of 2,000 square feet. And again, the cap at 133 units, and we don't have any maximum lot coverage in this pad. If we do private residential streets, they would have a 25-foot cross section, a little bit less than what city code allow or requires for public streets. And then we would ask for a slight reduction in the sidewalks for the interior residential subdivision, but not for any public sidewalks that we're going to be responsible for, which would be along Carondelet. For maintenance responsibilities, if we have private streets, as I mentioned, those would be maintained by the HOA. Any landscaping, park or common areas that aren't including a public park, which I'll talk about, those would all be the HOA's responsibility. The pad now has design standards, but they really are focused on the hospital's commercial development. There really weren't residential design standards, and the commercial design standards didn't really fit with the residential. So what we decided to do is implement some residential design standards that I think make more sense. So those are in the pad. And then we've also mentioned in there that we'd share with the adjacent neighborhoods prior to submittal what the actual finalized plans are. They've seen what you've seen tonight, and that very well may be what ends up being built. But either way, we'll show the neighbors, what the final design layout, what houses will look like. We'll share those with the neighbors prior to submittal. I wanted to just mention briefly some of our relationship to some of the properties that are around us. I think for an infill site, we've got really substantial setbacks, which I think is unique for an infill site, particularly on that east side, the north and the east side, because of the wash and because of that floodplain area that's going to be preserved, which is about a little over 2.5 acres. There's significant setbacks to the east from almost 375 or 370 feet to a little under 200 feet, ranging to the east. Even to the north, where we don't have as many houses, there's still built, and these are building to building dimensions. We still got about 85 feet separation to the north. To the assisted living, it's less, but that really is more of a non-residential kind of commercial function there. And then to the south, where the existing apartments are across Carondelet Drive, we've got about 125 feet. Also, within our site, we'll have additional open space, functional open space. So we estimate about 7.5 acres, which is about 42% of the site will be some form of open space, whether it's natural or functional. One of the really, I think, kind of cool things about this project is we met early with Ward 2 with Councilmember Cunningham on this project. He actually lives close. And when we started talking about this wash area that was going to be preserved, and then also talking, we would have internal park amenities for our residents. He kind of came up with this idea of, well, why don't we make the park amenities public and accessible to everybody around in sort of a neighborhood walking type park, and allow KB to get impact fee credits for that park area, and sort of treat it as a win-win for everybody, where KB would build the park and then dedicate it to the city, dedicate the park land to the city as well. And then the KB residents would get to use it. Other adjacent residents would get to use it. So we really think it's a pretty creative idea. And so that's how we're moving forward. We're right in the middle of negotiating the terms of a development agreement with the parks department. We've had recent back and forth. We've got a term sheet. So our plan is, hopefully we'll be going to mayor and council for an approval at that same agenda. On that same agenda, we would be going to mayor and council with the development agreement that memorializes this and really works out all the details. The potential amenities, we haven't figured those out yet. That'll be part of this development agreement process, but it'll be kind of a standard small neighborhood park. We've listed some things that possibly could be there. It won't be all of them, maybe just a few, but that's all. That design effort is still to come. But we're really excited about the concept and think it's like I said, a really creative and unique idea. All right. Just to finish out, we've done quite a bit of public outreach. We met initially with some of the leadership from the El Gecko and the Harold Bell Wright neighborhoods, and talked about the project, talked about this park idea, got some good feedback. We had our official neighborhood meeting on March 10th. We had about 30 attendees, and then we got a lot of feedback at that meeting about mostly really, I think, traffic and the Wash Park area. Those are the biggest feedback we got. So we went back about 3 weeks later, had a second meeting, kind of flushed out some of the ideas we had, and got, again, a lot of good feedback. I think there's two things that came about from this. One was there's a concern about safety along Carondelet and Jessica. There's no stop sign at that corner. So there's just concern about safety. From that, we went ahead and did a traffic study. At this point, it's a draft study. Typically, a traffic study doesn't need to be submitted to the city until our plat, our tentative plat process. But KB went ahead and did one earlier based on this neighborhood meeting, just to kind of get a read of how our traffic is going to affect the area. What they found from that study, and I'm happy to share that study with you if you'd like. Again, it's in draft form. It hasn't been reviewed by the city, but it has been prepared by our engineers. What that traffic study showed was that the existing roadways can accommodate this project's traffic. It looked at intersections as far out as Wilmot and Carondelet and Jessica and Broadway, and found that those intersections would function at about a level service B or better, which is very good, and that other internal intersections would function at about a level C or better, which is still really good for city infill. And essentially it concluded that the project's traffic could be accommodated by those existing roads, and there wasn't any turn lane warranted or anything. Now, we may, at the Carondelet Jessica corner, we'll work with Department of Transportation and Mobility to make sure that that's a safe corner. Maybe it's including some traffic signs, some stop signs or yield signs, things that might slow some traffic down there. But that's something that we'll address really at the tentative plat stage. The other big concern we had from the neighborhood meetings was just about the park and the potential for attracting kind of vagrancy and how to handle some of those things. We had some ideas like we wouldn't include outlets or electricity at the park. We'd limit water to, if we just had a dog park, the city does require water fountain for a dog park. So there are certain things that came up that we think we can address. And that's one of those problems that's tough, that's really found all throughout the city. Our thought is, though, that as this is a more of a public park, kind of hidden away, that those issues probably will be less than some other parks that are along, true major roads. So that is really it. I'm happy to answer any questions either now or after the public hearing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Junman. I do have some questions, but I'm going to wait till after the public comments. So at this time, I'd like to ask if any members of the virtual audience would like to speak, and if you could raise your virtual hand, I'll then note who it is who's raised their hand and then call upon you in order. All right, I'm not actually seeing any virtual hands. Does John or Sue, do you see anybody who wishes to speak?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Well, I do have a few questions, Mr. Junman. Is there a slope to the east portion of the parcel that would become the park, that sort of floodplain area?
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'll share. We've got a topo map.
Yeah.
I can share that. To answer your question while I'm bringing that up, oh wow, I don't know how I just automatically got it on.
Yeah, right.
That's the smoothest thing I've done all week.
Magic touch
so,
there.
Yeah, so as you see from the site slopes from the west down to the east, and it's pretty significant down towards the wash, like the Rose Hill Wash is pretty low, and then the floodplain park area is it's kind of flat through here, and then there's a fairly significant slope upwards where the homes will be. There's going to have to be, quite a bit of grading in here, but none of that grading is going to impact that floodplain area. It'll just have to be sort of where the houses are. And we're not quite sure what this is, but in the middle is like a mound. It almost looks like it was a stockpile of dirt at some point way back in the day, but those kind of things will have to be smoothed out. But there'll be some contour to the site. And Kevin, if you want to chime in and expand on that, feel free. But
yeah, there is a ridge high point that cuts through the site there, but the majority of the site does slope towards the Rose Hill Wash, and the other smaller area slopes towards back towards Carondelet Drive to the southwest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just, I did note some questions. I'll try to go in order about the park. You did sort of talk about a couple of the safe by design aspects. I think that was a concern for the neighbors. You mentioned there wouldn't be any power outlets. There might be water if there's a dog park. Are there any other safe by design features that you've been considering, or can you expand on that just for the public's edification?
Sure. I think the electric and the water were the biggest things, just so they're not kind of an attractive nuisance. Lighting was another concern, that we would have minimal lighting. There might be sort of low lighting just to help on the walking path, but really we didn't want any lighting that's going to attract anybody or have any light spill over to the neighbors to the east. I will say this, going out there, on the east side of the Rose Hill Wash, it's very dense trees, and so there's this really nice natural buffer between those properties that are over off of Flamenco and Bahamas to our property. But that being said, we don't want to cause any kind of light spillover. I think when we get further into the design with parks, these things will come up. We have made parks aware that we don't want to do anything that's going to really be an attractive nuisance or attract vagrancy. So I don't know how to put that correctly, but anyways, I think you get my point. We're mindful of that, and we'll work with parks on that.
I understand. What if you can speak to this issue? Do you have an idea or a sense of how much of that park area would be developable under the current pad by right?
So currently by right, we could do a flexible lot development and use the entire property towards our density calculation. We couldn't develop in that park area at all without doing a change to the FEMA floodplain, right? So
Can I?
yeah,
So, this is Adam with KB Home. We could develop park amenities in there. We just couldn't put any homes without changing the FEMA floodplain.
sure.
By right in the PAD, we can use the entire site if we would want to go through that loaner process.
Exactly. So regardless, we can do park amenities, non-habitable structures, things like that in the floodplain area. So that can happen regardless. But I guess Adam's right. We could develop over the entire site, but the big caveat there is you'd have to do a Clomer. I mean, you couldn't develop in the wash area, but you could develop in some of the floodplain area if you went to get that changed. But in any circumstances, we're sort of counting that area towards our density, which we can do through a flexible lot development design process, right? So I don't know if we answered your question, but
No, you did that.
Okay.
And I don't want to bounce around here, but I've got some questions that are related to the density. I know that's a concern as well, but also that relates to some extent to the traffic issues. I just want to know if the draft traffic study, did it identify any need for any traffic improvements?
no, there was no warrant for turn lanes, and the intersections that were studied were all an acceptable level of service. Again, this hasn't been reviewed by staff, but those initial results, made us think that it'll, we're not expecting the city to come up with any drastic changes to that. So,
And if improvements were identified, that they'd have to be addressed, right?
they would have, yeah, let's say we got to the tentative plat stage and the city did disagree and there was some, let's say this wouldn't happen, but there was an error in the study, and we would have to essentially make those warranted changes if they happened at that time. And I think we're willing to, on that, the Carondelet Jessica corner, there wasn't anything in the traffic study that said something needed to happen there, but I think that there's a perception that might be, there may be some, a little bit of safety issues there, and we're willing to work with the city to make sure that that's, that if they're agreeable to it, that may be a place where you put a stop sign, make it a little bit safer, that kind of thing.
This is maybe a speculative hypothetical question, but did the traffic study identify any distinction between the levels of service that would be presented should the pad be built out under the 92 unit density versus the 133 proposed.
There wasn't a comparison, but I think you can, I think, you know, at 100, the traffic study was prepared at 133 units. So I think you know, I think the conclusion would be whatever's less is better, right? So.
Yeah, but specifically to the level of service, if it's still within the same tier of level of service, that would be informative. But I understand it's a draft report.
Oh, I see what you're asking. I can look at that real quick. I
don't know if we did the comparison versus 92 to the 130. That usually that increase is really negligible when you start looking at the entire area and the amount of traffic on the current arterials. The 40, 50 some odd additional homes really is pretty negligible when it comes to affecting the level of service.
Yeah, I think it was what the current traffic is, and then what the opening year full build out is at 133. So I don't think it looked at what 92 would have been.
And that's just comparing residential to residential, because the pad would allow also medical offices and other medical uses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Sort of turning to this is again kind of speculative, and I apologize, but there wasn't much residential design standard provision in the existing pad, and in 2006 we didn't have. You might need to correct me on the statute 946118, the ADU statute. Would if hypothetically, if this was built out at 8,500 square foot lots with 92 residences, would there be anything in the pad that would prevent any owner from building an ADU under that circumstance, given the widespread provision of ADU, or application, I should say?
So there's nothing in the pad that limited, well, essentially what the pad did was it took the 03 zone as the sort of base zone for the pad, right? So I think you know this, that pads are sort of developed off of existing zones, right? So for the eastern part of the property that we're developing, the base zoning was 03. The hospital part was OCR1. But so really what the pad did was say, for the most part, you can develop under OCR3 zoning, and except for the minimum lot size that it established. So I think I don't recall the LUC at that time, but I am fairly certain there was nothing. There was a limit on accessory structures back then that has now become much more loosened in recent months, or recent years. So I think the answer to your question is, back then you could have done an ADU as an existing structure. I think that's true, but it would have been limited to one and pursuant to those, those accessory structure limitations. So
what I'm sort of driving at here is that under this proposal, this would be a fixed 133 cap, because you could not do an ADU on any of these, right? It's more like a townhome development that's proposed. It isn't, but it's more like one.
Yeah, under this, particularly under this, I mean, we've got the 133 dwelling unit limit, and there's just not physically any room on this site plan to put anything else. So
correct. The side yards shown here, kind of in the tan in between the homes, that's there's not enough space to build a structure and meet, the setback requirements for an ADU. So this would be it for dwelling units on the site if developed under this scenario.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, and hypothetically, at 8,500 square feet, you've got each lot that's 8,500 square feet, hypothetically could have ADUs by right under 03. I believe. John, am I thinking correctly in that one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, the way the ADU code is written, any lot with a house can have an ADU, but the ADU code doesn't supersede HOA regulations. And so if you have a neighborhood you establish with a homeowners association for the common maintenance and all that, that HOA can have its own guidelines governing accessory structures on the lots. And because the ADU, the city ordinance and the state law don't supersede like private agreements between property owners, such as an HOA, the establishment of a neighborhood in an HOA can preclude legally the possibility of ADUs being developed, or things like backyard sheds or whatever. Like an HOA, it's a private agreement between, individual parties.
Yeah, I guess an HOA could be established without the prohibition of ADU, but then the board could vote one in subsequently. And this is all speculative and hypothetical anyway.
Dr. Kopp, I will say this, that KB's standard, they establish CCNRs for their developments, and that their typical CCNRs exclude ADUs and, other kind of outbuildings. So, and that would be the same for this.
So it's physically impossible under the proposed development, and it would be sort of legally impossible under the KB standard HOA document.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Let me just review my notes here and see if I have anything else that I wanted to ask. Oh, Mr. Junman, are there any other sort of adopted planning and housing policies that you're familiar with that weren't cited already that are calling for sort of increases in density?
No, I think both, Plan Tucson, and then Mr. Slater mentioned the city's housing policy. So I'm not aware of anything else.
And I think it just in the area plan, like we mentioned before, it does support the level of density that we're proposing at the 7 residents per acre.
Yeah, it actually is a medium density residential that ranges from 7 to 14. So we're at the very bottom of that range. So
other subject entirely. You have I think if I'm reading correctly, you have the same amount of guest spots, one guest spot per unit for parking. And is it anticipated that the units as built would have single car or 2-car garages in your the product offerings that KB?
The standard, all homes would have a 2-car, would have a standard 2-car garage. Okay. And then we would have the additional guest parking as shown on the plan.
Okay.
One for each unit.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Did my questions bring up anything for anybody else that they wanted to comment on?
Not on our team, it looks like, yeah.
It looks like somebody is raising their hand. Yeah. And I believe there's a is it Jack McDaniel showing up on the screen there?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Annette. I'm his wife. And we live to the north of the property. in the cul-de-sac there, Man Circle. You can see on your map. And we walk our dogs frequently along the wash there. And I know that that property is considerably higher than our property here. And my concern is if you're allowing 2-story homes to be built there, they're looking right down into basically our backyards, all of our homes. And I'm wondering, are the 2-story homes going to be allowed to be placed anywhere? So they buy the lot and pick their home? Is that how it's going to work? Anyone?
Sorry, yeah. Is it Annette McDaniel, was it?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I apologize. Yeah, if you have a question, direct it to me, and then I can ask it of the applicant and the consultant. And let me just clarify, you said you were to the north of the site,
Yes,
right?
on Man Circle. And you can see our homes back up, directly to the proposed site.
Mr. Juneman, if you could put back the shared screen and show me the setback map that you had up.
Sure. Let me see here. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so to the north, again, these dimensions are building to building. So I think there's about a 16 foot alley drainage area here. And then we had another 25 foot setback and landscape
With our
border.
landscape border.
Yeah.
And under this scenario, this would be the front of the house looking north. So you can see we have quite a bit of separation from the 85 feet from building to the back of the nearest home.
Correct. However, if those are 2-story homes,
Ms. McDaniel, I'm not sure you were here at the very beginning, and I don't know if I swore you in, but as I said at that time, it's not a conversation. You can give your testimony to me, but not ask questions of the applicant. And then as you talk to me, I'll listen and take notes so that I can put that into my report if appropriate, and then I'll ask the questions of the applicant. Does that make sense?
okay.
Thanks.
So,
So you have a point that you wanted to make, yeah.
well, that was my point, that the property is considerably higher. We've been out there several times, and if 2-story homes are allowed to be built, it's kind of an invasion of our privacy, even though you have your, 85 foot setback from our homes there. Like I said, that's what he's pointing to, the 85 foot.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cuff, or Dr. Cuff, I'm happy to actually add a little bit of detail here, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Ms. McGann, you were correct about the way that KB's customers choose the location. They choose a lot. They choose whether it's 1-story or single story. So you were correct there. I think one thing to point out that needs to be considered is right now that mound that's in the center, that's somewhat close to where you live, it is the high point, and it's going to be lowered, right? It's the site is going to be, it's not going to be completely leveled off. It's going to be probably tiered, but that is absolutely a high point on the property that's going to be taken down. And it's really not natural. It looks, like I said before, looks like it's, old stockpiled dirt. And so it'll be taken down. So I think the current condition now would make it look worse because, like I said, there's going to be a lowering.
Right, but I'm not even talking about the high point. The
Um,
high point obviously is.
Once again, I'm
Oh.
sorry. Direct your comments to me, and express anything that you want to me, that we have to avoid having a conversation. Before I go further, you did enter a bit late, and I swore everybody in, and just to preserve make sure the record is clear on this. Did you get sworn in, or can I swear you in now?
No, I was not sworn in.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in now. I'm going to just take it on faith, everything you've said so far. But do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. I apologize. That's sort of administrative. So, as I understand it, and I'm taking notes on this, your concern is that the high point of the proposed modification to the pad in that area is across from your property, and that those, I think it's about 8 proposed parcels or 8 proposed units are on that north side of the site, and that they are high, and that would be a potential intrusion into your privacy. Is that a good summation of what your concerns are? Or is there something additional there?
No, that's it.
Okay. Now, can you identify which one of the parcels is yours, where you live there?
It's not on the picture there. I live, yeah, I live basically where your cursor is, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not one of those 4 parcels there. You're across from those, or
Yeah.
around the corner from those. Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Ginman, or any member of the team there, do you know approximately how much lower that's going to come, that portion of the site will be at a build out?
Dr. Kafka and Adam called for plan on KB home. We haven't started our grading plan yet. Our initial outlook would be that would be lowered probably by about 10 feet, if not more. We'll have a better understanding once we get some conceptual grading put together, but we have recognized that area as a high spot, and we'll be lowering that to kind of match the grade with the rest of the site.
And Dr. Coffin, just for reference, the properties, at least on the south side of Man Court, I'm not sure about on the north, but it's probably not much different, are at about 2568 elevation. The mound is up as high as 2592, 2594. So it's a good 20 feet, 24 feet. So, I don't want to create illusions that it's going to be level, but, it's still be a little bit higher, but it'll be a significant decrease in that elevation there on that mound, just to bring it in line with, the more of the site to the south.
Does anybody know how deep those north of the alley, south of Man Court lots are?
They're at the 2568 elevation.
No, I mean the depth of the lot.
We've got a GIS map up, so we can tell you.
So I'm already looking. It's about 102 feet deep. The lot's on the south side of Man Circle,
That was fancy.
The intersection at the narrowest part is about 50 feet, and then on the north side, it's again about 100 feet in depth. So that's about 150 plus a setback, maybe 175, 180 feet from the front door of the house directly north of the east circle roundabout there.
Okay. So approximately an additional 100 feet. Well, there's the street too. So 100, you said 150 feet. Is that correct? I'm trying to visualize this, and unfortunately, I don't want to pull it up. It might waste time.
From the property boundary of the subject parcel to the front of the building is 217 feet.
Okay, thank you. And that's to Ms. McDaniel's parcel.
Correct.
Okay. Does that bring up any questions, Ms. McDaniel?
No, it's still a concern. I do have another question.
Okay, I only wanted to figure that all out because I kind of wanted to figure spatially out how your concerns play out in real space. So I want to take those into account. All right, what's your other question?
My other question is, will we still have access to we have a nice walkway, I don't know what you call it, an alley, along Rose Hill Wash that we walk dogs on. Will that be blocked off for the neighborhood?
I'm not sure you were here for the presentation, but I'll let Mr. Juneman sort of reiterate a little bit on the tentative plans or the proposed plans for the Rose Hill Trail access to the neighborhood and the proposed park, just to recap and address those concerns about access for Mrs. McDaniel. Miss McDaniel? Mrs. McDaniel. All right. Thank you.
Sure, Dr. Coffin, Mrs. McDaniel. I'm happy to answer more specific questions, but this path here, it follows a sewer easement, but it's going to be kind of a walking path, multi-use path, and it'll be open to the public. I can't remember. I think it does connect. You probably know better than me that it connects up through here.
Yeah.
But it'll be a publicly accessible path. There'll be a small park in this area. Not quite sure what that's gonna, what the amenities are gonna be. But it'll be publicly accessible and open, and it will go all the way. Oops, didn't mean to do that. It'll go all the way down. Actually, this is a better view. All the way down to Jessica and Carondelet. So, and the city is putting in kind of a bike path along Carondelet that'll go east into the El Gecko neighborhood. So there'll be connectivity there and public accessibility. We're definitely not taking that away. I hope we're making it better.
Okay, great. And Mr. Is it Kafka?
Kafka, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
And my last question is the public park going to allow dogs on a leash?
My understanding is there may even be some dog park amenities in that public park. At least that has been part of the discussion, but I'll let Mr. Juneman address that more. And in fact, I believe the neighbors are actually can participate in that discussion.
Yeah, we have had some discussions with neighbors. We're still talking with city parks as well. Once this subdivision is created and the park's completed, it will be dedicated to the city. Again, like Mr. Juneman mentioned, we haven't fully designed the amenities yet, but it would be subject to the same requirements as any other city park. So I believe dogs only should be allowed there.
And we're working with Ward 2, we're working with Parks, but we're also kind of working pretty hand in hand with Ward 2 on this because they have an interest. This is really kind of their idea, and so they've definitely got a vested interest in this. So,
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah, you bet. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Junman. Thank you, Mrs. McDaniel. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak at this time? All right, Mrs. McDaniel, thank you, Mrs. McDaniel. Thank you for your comments and your testimony this evening. Thanks again, everyone, to staff and to the consultant and the applicant. I think at this time I have sufficient information and will close the public hearing unless anybody has any last comments they wish to make. And seeing none, I hereby close TP MOD 0426000023, the St. Joseph's Pad modification. Thank you, everybody. I usually will say in person, please be safe driving home, but I will only say that now, just directed to the people that I can tell are at their offices. So please be safe out there, and you'll have my preliminary report in 5 business days, I believe next Thursday. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too.